This is kind of nice with all the
Oh, no,
food.
oh, you're talking
This is Dan.
March and April.
Can I just make
Plenty of
sure
time. It should
that you can hear me?
be okay. It should die out by then.
Hi, Ann, we can hear you.
Oh, she's on the phone. Okay.
Or I'll call him Barb.
Oh, here we go, 6:59.
You're gonna call Barb, I'll behave, anybody.
Ann, can you hear me?
It was Ann Shaddix that
Yeah.
was asking, yeah.
Just want to make sure she's ready to go.
can
She
hear you.
is the leadoff hitter tonight. And where's my... Put this little guy here.
Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to assume it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. And therefore, I will declare this meeting of the City Council of the City of Escalon, regular meeting of October 5th, 2020, open for business. Would you please join me in the salute to our flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Merkin?
Here.
Councilmember Bellinger?
Here.
Councilmember Legero?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Alves? And Mayor Swift.
Here. We will begin this evening with a presentation from Ann Shaddix with the Commission on Aging and Senior Fund Bunch representative. Ann, are you there?
I am here, yes. Can you hear me okay?
I believe we can.
Yes, we can.
The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for all your support with the Senior Fun Bunch. We are still staying active in spite of the fact that we can't meet. When the pandemic started, we hand-delivered masks to everyone. We continue to do that as they're needed. And we also send out a monthly newsletter. We challenge people to walk. We challenge them with brain games. We challenge them to write articles. And the newsletter, I think, is very well received. We have many of them now that are providing information for us to put in the newsletter also. So we wanted to do something for them to look forward to, and so on the 27th of October, we are going to have a drive-through trick-or-treat for seniors so they can decorate their masks or their cars and drive through, and we'll have a trick-or-treat bag for them. So also the committee, which, as you know, is Peggy and Tina and Cindy and Lois. We are calling them all month long. We're trying to stay in touch with people just to see if there's anything they need or anything that we can do for them. So we're active. We're excited about being able to get together again. We don't know when that is. Of course, we're hoping it will be at Christmas time, but we're not totally optimistic about that. But if we can't, we'll have something else planned to keep them active, keep them engaged with each other. So I wanted to thank you again for your support for our group and assure you that it's still very active. I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for appointing me to the Commission on Aging for San Joaquin. I am just now learning about it. I've been on about 3 phone calls, and I'm hearing about various programs. I do think there are programs that will be of interest to us here, and there are support helps out there for things that we might need to do. So I'm going to be talking to, hoping to talk to each of the council members separately to see what your ideas are and what you think the needs for seniors might be that I can bring them to the San Joaquin County, especially if there's funds available. So thank you for that vote of confidence in putting me in that position. I do encourage you that if the staff or the council, if you get any questions, any inquiries about senior programs, senior activities, I invite you to call me. I will come and help do research. I'll help do the responses because sometimes the county will send things out and the commissioners don't really know it because they go directly to the county offices. So I'm here. I'm available to help, and I'd like to encourage you to seek my help whenever you can. The final thing that I wanted to share with you is my personal passions for Escalon, and as you know, senior housing is a big issue for me. I just don't feel that people should have to sell their homes and move to Modesto or wherever else because there's no place here in Escalon. So I'm hoping that there will be some active movement on doing something about senior housing. But the other thing that I'm very passionate about, and that's keeping seniors active. And I'm very, very concerned about the conditions of the sidewalks, especially the sidewalks in front of Marvell, where those are nice areas to walk. People could walk to the grocery store, and it is not safe. So I'm going to be asking the staff, I'll be asking the council how to guide me and help me so that we could put a plan together and possibly involve the county in doing something to make our sidewalks safer for all people, but as well as seniors. So that's what I wanted to report, and thank you again, and I encourage your questions. I encourage any input that you have for me.
Any questions from the council or, frankly, anybody in the audience for Ann? No? Ann, I want to thank you so much. The senior community has been a community that has needed a leader and an advocate for quite a while in Escalon, and you've been able to fill that void in many different ways. And so on behalf of the City Council, I want to give you a big thanks for all the work that you've done and continue to do.
You're welcome, and it's my pleasure.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann.
And moving on to the consent calendar, these items are considered routine in nature and are acted upon by a single action unless requested by an individual council member or member of the public for special consideration. For example, regarding item number 2, I will be abstaining from voting on check numbers 9742 and 74173.
I'd like to pull number 3, please.
Okay.
Oh, good, I'm glad you pulled that, thank you. I'm gonna check out, I want to say approved minutes from 2. Good enough, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Anything else to be pulled or modified? And if not, I'm going to ask for a motion on items 1 and 2 of the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve items 1 and 2 on the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Items 1 and 2 are approved, 5-0. Item number 3, there are some questions.
So the issue I have is if we're setting ourselves up to get into a dispute with certain carports or other structures that have been in place for, years and years that have not been a problem. This looks to me like this would open the door for neighbors to go after neighbors, to, file complaints about the carport, and even though it's been in place for, years and hasn't been an issue. So I worry about the retroactivity. I'm not sure if there's a way to grandfather structures in. I know we dealt with this.
Councilmember Earl, the general rule is that the ordinance is effective only prospectively unless it says otherwise. And I think it's subsection is retroactive, but the rest of it would not be.
Okay.
We're aware of that issue. So it's just the section on temporary fences is made retroactive, but nothing else would be.
Okay, because I saw that that was specifically retroactive in the ordinance. So the
Right.
big issue that I had is whether or not somebody could use this, again, weaponizing the ordinances and actually able to take action against their neighbors. We saw this with shed issues, and I just don't think that that is what the city needs to spend their time on. So as long as there isn't a retroactivity issue and
No.
used in that manner, then that was my big issue with the temporary structure issue. Thank you, Ann.
Any further questions on item number 3?
Yeah, you covered what I was gonna ask
Okay. So I'm going to ask for a motion.
then. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item number 3 on the consent calendar. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Item 3 passes 5-0. Moving on to staff communications.
I don't know, do you guys have anything? You have something, go ahead, and before we hit item 4, I'll let staff
Okay.
ask or share any information.
Thank you. As you may recall, about 6 months ago, staff came to you regarding a handful of houses in town that we were having a lot of issues with violations, substandard housing, substandard living, those type of issues, and we had asked for council's support and approval on moving forward with taking care of those issues. We have been moving forward. We've been tracking our time. We have ran into 2 of them thus far that are really slow when it comes to addressing the issues. At staff level, we've had to basically carry them through to the position where they were threatening receivership the entire time just to get them to submit plans, submit them to a point where they'd be acceptable. Our building official has worked very hard with them, much more than you would typically with people in those situations or homeowners in those situations. These are all rentals. One of them that we're talking about tonight currently does not have anybody living in it because it's so bad. We finally got to a point where we were able to have them pull their building permits, but since they've pulled their building permits, there's been no activity since then. So we've continued to advise and warn that you have to complete this stuff within a certain amount of time. Like, we're looking for immediate, as much as you can, progress, and we're not getting any progress. So our legal counsel did bring up that option once again, where if you're not seeing that progress, we should be looking towards moving forward with receivership. We've warned them several times. I just wanted to make sure, as far as tracking our time, we've kept everything documented. At the end of this, we would file a lien or have everything paid off within that receivership if it moved forward. I just wanted. So a receivership is basically where the receiver gets appointed by the court. We go and we file paperwork with the court, and they are appointed by the court, and they take out a loan against the house and do all the repairs that are required to meet building code. And then if the homeowner's then given an option to pay all of those expenses in order to get the house back. But then if they choose or don't want to pay for those expenses, the house gets sold to pay off the existing loan and those costs that it took to bring the house up to code.
Are these houses owned by more than one individual?
More than one individual
But
appear to be all associated to each other.
So there is a connection between them.
Yes.
And that they're to the point now you're gonna recommend.
Two of them, yes. The other three, we've been moving, not all five at a time, the most severe first. So these two were the two that were the most severe, had multiple substandard issues, just not livable. They're not,
Some are occupied, some are not occupied.
one is currently occupied. They've been able to work around that, and one is not occupied because it's a substandard dwelling and is not livable at this time.
Minimum legal noticing, so they've
We've
not-
done all the legal noticing, we've been submitting all of the information needed, and so we're looking towards moving forward with receivership, because we're just not
Will the
getting,
house go up to auction for public auction?
it would go up for sale. I don't believe it'd go up for public auction, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Why would it be just, who would be bidding on that house if it came up for sale?
I mean, it would be open to sale. I'm not sure, I'm not sure if it does public auction. I mean, public auction is usually when you're in default, so I wouldn't say that it would be public auction.
For the improvements, they are in default.
Not yet, because they haven't been charged for them, so you're putting that person in place to make all those charges, and then they're gonna
Receiver
have
does.
those, yeah, the
No, I
receiver
understand
fixes.
that. My point is, at the end of all that,
Mm-hmm.
they have an option to pay off what they borrowed against their house, to
Mm-hmm.
make the improvements. If they don't, they default, that house becomes for sale.
If they choose not to pay off those expenses,
the rece-
yeah, they put the house up for sale
It
to
would be a
cover those
public
costs.
auction, would it not?
Ann's trying to say something. Go ahead, Ann.
Sorry, the receiver would take charge of selling the house in one way or another. The receiver would be in charge of that. And the price paid would have to be at least enough to cover all the fees.
That's all understood, but I'm concerned about how this works, who sells it. I don't think there should be an entity that gets to sell this property. I think it should be a public auction.
Well, yeah, I think usually it is a public auction.
Why would it not be? Why would we hire
Yeah.
somebody to do improvements and to give them the right to come in and make a better deal? on it?
Because they're making those improvements at their risk, at their expense.
Well, they're gonna sell the property, get their money back, but they shouldn't be able to just take the property for that. That should be a public auction. They should get their money that they took the risk out, but it should be a public auction.
Yeah, I think
Crazy-
that
it's
generally,
crazy. It's like, you got Discover coming and taking a house, you got a guy that's gonna do it for him. You can't do that. You gotta have a public auction. Otherwise, that really, it doesn't look good at all.
I mean, it's all done through the courts, and I'm sure there's a specific process, yeah.
It seems to me
Should they set market value if they had to sell the home?
It would be whatever the payoff on the loan is, plus whatever the costs were, at least.
well, it'd have to be the fair
Yep.
market value.
That's what they
Yeah.
say fair market value is when
yeah.
you sell for what's owed and then have a house all of a sudden for repairs.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's all on the up. I mean, I don't believe we have any choice of how they would go about selling it. Once they're appointed to that property, then they would be the one taking care of it.
I want clarification whether or not that's the case. That house, if it's gonna be sold with the debt against it, it should be a public auction.
Okay, I can confirm. I'll send you an email tomorrow. I'm almost positive that it's a public auction. I know it's,
Can't imagine
it's,
what
Yeah.
anybody can on it.
Should drive the best sale.
a public auction would be.
While we're talking about those, what about the one out here on McHenry and the one on the corner of California and Irwin?
Hold on, we got, you guys, we're trying to, what was that, Walt?
What about the one on McHenry and the one on California and Irwin? They boarded them up, but they haven't done any repairs to them, but the properties are for sale. Do we have to wait till that property sells?
California?
Talking about the
California and
auction.
Irwin, it's on the old auction
Auction
yard.
Oh,
yard.
yeah.
He's talking about the
Oh,
houses that
oh.
are boarded up.
It's boarded up, the roof's falling in.
Yeah. So those ones aren't necessarily being rented out to people,
No.
and so that's why they haven't been an issue. These ones are where they're actually letting people live in there in these conditions, yeah.
Are we
So
gonna
if
be-
they actually opened those up to be living and they didn't pull permits to correct those, then yeah, we'd have to move forward with
Are
something.
we going to get around to doing those, or?
I had contacted them, I want to say about a year ago, about demolishing them. One of them had talked about moving forward with that, but it expressed that they feel like since the city wanted them to do that we should be paying for it. And so then the other one said that we couldn't move forward with that. We couldn't make somebody demolish their building because of the expense. I'm sure it is something we could move forward with, but since then, we've just had a lot of other things going on, I can reach out to them again and push for it again.
So,
What about the one we carried? You're talking about two, the one we carried?
Right.
That one as well, yeah.
I'm surprised that he wouldn't.
He's not it's still in the family, but he's not the main owner of it. It's still in the family, yeah. Yeah, he's not the main owner. Yes. That's my understanding.
so Dominic, what do you need from us tonight, or you just want to let us?
I just want to make sure that it's okay to move forward, let you know what we're doing to move forward with these, that there are expenses.
Are we okay with that, or do you want to wait for a definition of receivership, or whatever you guys, whatever
I
the
mean, I
council
even
likes
have
to do?
some notes off of a PowerPoint presentation that we went through. I mean, and all it talks about is sale of property. It doesn't specifically say how they go about selling it. And so I think at staff level, we're making the assumption they just put it up for sale. It
Right.
could be public auction. I can definitely follow up with,
Common sense, or just, how could you sell another person's property like that without making it public?
yeah.
So, hey, everybody, this is Mark Velasquez. Two things. It's really hard to hear the council members on the phone. So if you could make sure you're speaking one at a time, it would make it a lot easier. And number two, just reminder, I think we're just under staff communications at this point, which means there's no action to be taken. I believe Tammy's just informing us of what's happening with some of those properties and what may be the next step.
Okay, so that will be our
Yeah,
next step.
no, that's fine. No, that's fine. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was anything that, if you needed anything from us
No,
or
it's
not.
more of a heads up and just making sure
Sure.
that everybody remembers that this is the direction that we, at one point, sought to move forward with 5 houses. 2 of them are in that position now, and we'd like to move forward with it. And so we do bill our staff time, and it might take a while, but we would eventually get paid back for all of the expenses.
Being somewhat familiar with that situation, yeah, I think it's probably the proper time, so.
Okay?
Anything else under staff communications before we go to item number 4?
Not for me, no.
Okay, item number 4.
All right, so Mayor and Council, at our last meeting, I had presented you with, Jilton Solid Waste had asked for a proposed increase. So the city did receive a letter from Jilton on August 14th requesting an increase to their current fees of 1.1%. The letter and proposed rate schedule are attached to the staff report. This request is being made in accordance with the language that's found within the current agreement. They have exhausted all of the current increases within there. The last increase was made in August of 2017. Since the previous adjustment, Jilton has experienced an increase in tipping fee at the waste energy facility, purchasing additional equipment to help meet the state mandates, and increase in insurance costs across the board. They're requesting the city to make the appropriate rate adjustments based on the annual change in the CPI of 1.1%. When staff inquired with legal counsel, there was a difference of opinion on whether garbage rate increases are subject to Prop 218. Under Prop 218, only 5 years of rate increases may be approved, and the current contract is past that now. The alternative to the Prop 218 process would be to hold an advertised public hearing, but not send notices to each customer. At the meeting of September 21st, the staff asked City Council for direction on how they would like to move forward with the increase. City Council inquired what the increase would mean to the residents and businesses. Utilizing the proposed rate sheet, staff has calculated that the residents would experience an annual increase of $2.76, and businesses would range from $15.48 to $30.36, depending upon the bin size. Staff put together a worksheet that shows the monthly increases for each rate, and it is attached to the staff report as well. Discussions at the meeting included the potential of going out to bid for the solid waste services and what the termination clause of the contract stated. A one-year termination clause was discussed, but when we reviewed the contract, it was actually a 4-year termination clause, as set forth in the section 2 of the agreement.
Whoa, wait a minute. The agreement was 1 year, they would give us a time to go out to bid, 1 year, they would stay here under those conditions.
No, the agreement actually has written in there that, it says, "The initial agreement shall be enforced for 5 calendar years commencing August 15th, 2012. On each anniversary of the commencement date, the term will automatically be extended 1 additional year until such time as either the city or the collector submits in writing to the other that their intent is to terminate said agreement. If such notice is provided, the agreement shall terminate 4 years from the next commencement date, anniversary, notwithstanding the remaining term that would otherwise be in effect. And the city may at its discretion advertise for competitive bids for solid waste collection services, with such services to commence after the expiration of the contract term of this agreement. Nothing herein shall be deemed as or construed to impair the right of the city to immediately terminate the agreement with the collector due to collector's substantial failure to perform the services and responsibilities specified and agreed to in this agreement. So what this means is that if either party gives notice of their intention to terminate, the term of the agreement is extended for 4 years from the next commencement date, which is August 15th of the following year. So for example, if the city gave Jolton notice to terminate in October of this year, the term of the agreement would be extended to August 15th of 2025, because the next commencement date is August 15th of 2021. After giving such notice, the city could go out to bid for solid waste services, and new services by the selected hauler would begin after August 15th of 2025. In this scenario, the rates under the current Jilton contract would remain the same through the extended term of the agreement. The last sentence of Section 2 means that the city still has the right to terminate the agreement immediately if at any time Jilton fails to perform the services required under the agreement. So I will say that I talked with Henry Hessling, because he was part of the negotiations with this. And so most cities in their waste contracts, it's a 10-year exit clause. So what was worked out here was they were guaranteed 5 years, and then if we gave notice, they had technically almost another 5 years or 4 years, so they got the 10-year contract.
I understood this contract to go, after the 5-year contract, if we wanted to renew it, we could. If we didn't, they would stay for 1 year, giving us time to go out to bid. If they wanted to bid, they would stay. I mean, they would give us 1 year to do that. I don't know where this other 4-year thing came from. That's insane. But what you're saying, we have to keep them 4 more years.
You need to talk into that so they can hear
4 more
you.
years under the current circumstances as part of this agreement.
Correct.
That's insane. I wish they had made that a lot more clear, because that was not clear. Did you know that?
I'm not too sure if I knew that. Didn't you and Councilmember Legero, weren't you guys in on the talk with them about this?
I never saw that.
Gary and I
Or was that you, Gary and?
were involved in the rates.
Go ahead.
Well,
Yeah.
that would have been part of the rates.
Gary Haskin. Yeah, but under the agreement, they get the 4 years, but they don't get a raise.
I understand that now.
And if they
Okay.
don't do the job correctly, we can terminate them.
Right.
So we got the best end of that deal, I think. You have to stay for at least 4 years. We can do what we want, or we can terminate.
I understand it now, but that was not what I understood when we did the contract with them. I originally thought the contract said 1 year after the contract was completed, we had to make up our mind to extend the contract, they would stick around, or we'd roll over to another contract. In other words, we could go out to bid if we wanted to.
Okay, to be honest, I don't remember whether that was alluded to or not, but I'm saying is we have 4 years on them at the same rate.
I get it.
And in all reality, by the time you did an RFP and you go out to bid and you coordinate the exchange of all of that, you're probably looking at least a 2-year to 3-year
okay, that's fine, I get it, but
Yeah.
it's just not what I remembered it as.
Sure.
Does that
I think the-
four-year window go for, in perpetuity, basically? If we do nothing and we continue, let's say, to never give them a raise, and then we decide to terminate them, is that four-year clause there no matter, 10 years from now, it's still another 4 years they get?
That is correct. That's correct, Ann, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I think the confusion,
You know what, we could probably go back and pull the staff report when this was approved, just to show, because I know that whole section was negotiated back and forth, and this is what the city agreed to in the end. It gives both parties, time to make adjustments or whatever. And it also, the 4 years does, lock in the rates for another 4 years for the city.
and I think one of the issues was it's an evergreen contract.
That was the other issue.
So that it just renews, and then the termination part of it is the opportunity to pull out of it. It freezes the rates, so we guaranteed at least 4 years of that
Right.
rate. And then, in the meantime, you negotiate, you go out to RFP, you bring in a new provider and stuff. But there was, I remember that the concern at the time was having the provider pull out or terminate the contract without notice, and leaving us in a situation to where who's gonna pick up our garbage.
Right.
So we got
Or
the,
threatening to terminate the contract unless there was a rate increase.
exactly. So, and again, that 4 years was for the termination. We felt that protected us.
Right.
Ultimately, you and I both voted no on the contract, but
Right.
it still passed, because I wanted some additional negotiation in there, but I think it was a good contract, given where we were
In
at.
retrospect, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
we stuck with it, we can't get around it.
Yeah.
But,
But they are providing a good service, and there doesn't seem to be a need to,
the only question I
Terminate.
have, guys, and nobody knows the answer to the question is, what are other cities based on our size paying? I mean, we don't know that.
We could ask.
Well, we did look at some of them.
About a year ago, we had provided something in your box that had a breakdown of the rates. I mean, and we're right in there with other small cities. The only difference being if I recall correctly, I probably still have that document. Maybe I'd be able to email it back out again. But the only difference of us being is that we bill bi-monthly and everybody else was monthly. So bi-monthly, I think we might have been a little bit on the lesser, maybe, a couple dollars. But we also bill the bi-monthly, so.
Well, in his comments or their comments, they mentioned the increases of fees and stuff. Fuel's never been cheaper. I didn't hear him mention that.
Probably doesn't cover the
tipping
cost
fees,
of
by the way, he
their
owns that
increases.
facility. So I don't know who's paying the tipping fees to.
I don't know.
So tonight, I brought the item back to the council with the additional information, and I'm looking for direction on how to handle the proposed increase, whether we would, ask Jilton to follow the Prop 218 process, which the contract says that they do pay for that process. So that process is that we establish what the rates are. They can go out for 5 years, and they're mailed out to all of the customers, noticing them that we will be holding a public hearing, what the increase is, and then they have the opportunity to protest those rates. Or if we only did the 1 year, you could potentially do, advertise for the public hearing of the Jilton increases and, just do a 1 year increase.
Okay.
I'd like to go to 18.
Yeah,
Then we
well-
could do a 5-year contract instead of a 1. Then we could say no too. The other thing is say no.
No rate increase, what would that
Mhm.
Look at the economy. Everyone's struggling right now. Is this the time to keep bumping things up?
So-
If we said no this year, we could reevaluate next year.
That's right.
I was gonna say it's a double-edged sword, because, yeah, it's just time to bump everything up. Well, everybody thinks it's time to bump everything up with minimum wage, and all the jobs and all the unions, everything is tied to the minimum wage. We're going up $1 a year already. Yeah, and you're right, and can the economy handle it? I don't know if the powers that be care. But unfortunately, everybody is downstream from that. And I'm not trying to defend him, but I'm just saying that as an example, I know that's a headwind that they're facing as well as everybody else is facing right now.
Then the fairest way to go to 18.
Well, it sounded like we were heading that direction the last meeting.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, Ann?
that's definitely the most defensible way to go, and then you could lock in the rates for 5 years, and there wouldn't be any legal risk at all.
Is, consensus, what, does everybody think if we, go the 218 process with their requested increase? Any objection? Any big objection?
Who sets those rates again? How does that work?
Well, they would give us the proposal for the rates.
Schedule. And the process is exactly the same as when you increase water and sewer rates.
Okay. Consensus to go that that's the direction? Any major objection?
No.
With the 218 process, there's gonna have to be a majority ratepayers.
If a majority of the ratepayers submit written protests, then the rate increase cannot be approved. So it's pretty high bar.
And if they don't meet that threshold, are the rates automatically approved, or do we have any say over that? Are we
Could be
negotiating with them as to what to present in the 218?
Well, yeah, you can approve whatever rate increases you want to, but the notice that goes out to everybody has to state what the increases are. Right, you could not approve any rates that were higher than what was in the notice, but approve rates that were lower than.
We're setting the maximum rates over 5 years with the
Right.
option of not imposing those rates if we feel it's inappropriate at the time.
Absolutely. In any year to not impose the increase or to impose a less.
I don't understand what's the difference between just saying no this year and come next year. Why do we want to set rates going forward? Right now, we have no rate increases set right now for the foreseeable next 4 years, correct? They have to ask us, and we have the right to say no.
Right.
So why would we open up ourselves to the idea that they can now have escalators for the next 5 years with rate increases?
Well, Councilmember Legero, are you talking about, maybe that 1% increase, that 1.1% increase that they're talking about? That's the totality that they're gonna get over the next 5 years?
No.
Or just 1
They're
year?
asking for
So
that
they,
for 1 year.
All right.
okay, so they've asked only for the 1.1% for 1 year, and, but if you're gonna pay to go through the whole Prop 218 process, I would anticipate from a business standpoint
They're gonna ask for more.
that they would want to do more than just the 1 year.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I don't know, Savannah Jilton was gonna join in on the call. I'm not sure if she's on the meeting or not.
Savannah?
So maybe she's not on the meeting.
Okay.
Hi, guys, this is Mark Velasquez. We could certainly say no, but we know what's the next logical step that they are probably going to take is to begin the termination process. Because if we're basically telling them, no, we're not going to consider rate increases for the next 4, maybe 5 years, then I would say there's a high likelihood then we're going to get a notice of termination, and fine, there's no rate increases for 4 years, but we're going to have to start doing an RFP in about a year or 2.
You know, Mark, I'm gonna disagree with you. The circumstances that I know of, he's not gonna terminate it unless we really do something crazy. And not by allowing him not to have a 1% increase. Part of his organization is built on a network of cities that keeps a balance of his cash flow. If he loses one, it's not gonna be very healthy for him. So I would say, I don't think they're gonna terminate, they may not be happy. And I think we tell them it's a 1-year consideration, I don't think it's gonna do anything personally.
Is there a certain time of the year where this is only open for consideration?
So typically, the increases were worked in the original agreement as August 15th of each year. So August 15th of 2017 is the last time that they received an increase. So August 15th is typically the time frame, but I didn't receive their letter till August 14th this year, so,
So they've had no raise since 17.
correct.
And I want to be very careful too, because our services with Jilton, as Councilmember Legero said, is very good. We don't have to do a lot of work. We have 2 cans. We put green waste in one, we put trash in the other. They're there to pick it up. If you have odds and ends, then you can put it out on the street and call them. They will come and pick it up a couple times a year. I don't want to be one of those cities that has 5 different colored cans and you have to do all the sorting. This is easy. Throw it in there, drag it to the street, and they pick it up.
Yeah, you know, my only thought is, again, from a business standpoint, since 17, I've seen, with what I do, I've seen prices go up. Some here, some there. Luckily, gas is not one of them, and that's good, that's huge. You know, that's a big one. Others, labor, through the roof, you know.
Wait till after the election, watch
Yeah.
what gas prices do.
Yeah, compliance with regs, through the roof. Paperwork requirements, through the roof. So I don't know what all this gentleman has to go through. So, you know, another thought is can you do a Prop 218 for a 1.1 CPI increase? Or does it have to be over 5 years, or can it just be a year?
It doesn't have to be over 5 years. I'm just saying they have to pay for all the noticing that goes out. So if I'm a business person and I'm having to pay for this, then I'm gonna make it worth my while where I don't have to do it
Right.
in another year, you know?
Oh, no, I get that, but what I'm saying is do they have that out, or can we say, you know, we need to do the 218 process for this 1.1% increase for this year? Or does it have to be automatically a 5-year
It
aggregate?
doesn't automatically have to be a 5-year. The 5 years are just the max that you can approve during the Prop
Right.
218 process.
Because my thought, if we can request, okay, fine, you know what? We'd like to entertain that 1.1% increase, but it's gonna be through the 218 process, because that's the cleanest way to do it. You want that 1.1% increase over this next year? That's fine. This 218 process is gonna be for that 1.1% increase over this next year, period. Because if their pattern is such that if they can hold for another 2-3 years, hopefully, like they already have, you know, then they may be only asking for an increase once every 2-3 years. Hopefully, we'll see. Okay, versus us, you're right, getting in the situation where we're saying, no, we're not gonna do it at all, and then we start that termination process, or, no, we're gonna go ahead and do the 218 process over 5 years, and they rightfully would be asking for a lot more. If we can do that 218 process for a 1-year period for this 1.1%, that might be our best out.
And I think that's gonna be the option of Jilton. I mean, the current contract was, they started out at a base rate, and then it was CPI annually for the next 4 years. So, I mean, that could be something that they would ask for. It was not to exceed 2.5% annually.
Right.
And that's what was part of it before. I think Gary came up with a cap to make sure that the CPI was particularly high that year. That it
Right.
would never be any more than a 2.5%.
Yeah, and they are only asking what the most recent CPI is,
Right,
is the 1.1.
The thing is this, I just feel like we owe it to do our due diligence, and the only way we can accomplish that, I think, is we need to do a little study on our own, to look around communities our size, same population, same type of gross income, blah, 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 to look at the numbers. Because just to do it, you're gonna do it, I think is wrong. And I think the 218 does present other problems. I think if we could do a small study of maybe 5 or 6 cities our size in California, then we can look at those and try to compare them. But just to say, oh, what the heck, they're good, I don't think that's doing our due
Yeah.
diligence. I think we're being derelict in our responsibility to taxpayers.
Right, so do we want to go in that route? Just ask staff to can you guys look,
Well, I
give us
think
4 or
we
5
should do
cities?
that. I think
Yeah.
what we should do is say, let's take a look at this and see if we're being totally unreasonable, give them the damn 1%. But what do we have that to base on? We don't know what other cities are paying.
Right.
Part of the Prop 218 process is to establish what that rate should be, because the rate under 218 cannot exceed what the cost actually is. So that's going to be part of the 218 process, is to essentially justify the rate increase.
I appreciate that, Mark. My point was this, with not getting into that, because it could open the Pandora's door for a 5-year contract, a lot more than 1%. What if we just did a small study of maybe 5 or 6 cities comparable to Escalon and took a look at it, and then made a decision based on that? At least we did something, rather than just roll over or, go into a deeper hole.
And, and that'll give you your answer too, about, the idea of opening up a bid, the RFP process. Well, this will give you a little snippet of what we'll be looking at with that too, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get. I just don't like the idea of giving something
Right.
without doing some sort of due diligence.
Right. Any objections to that as a direction at this point?
So the direction is that staff's gonna, gather numbers, the cost in cities.
The comparable, and what you're looking at is not only the population, but the income they have, their budgets, because that gives you a lot of information about a community. So if you can go out and give towns the same size that have horrible budgets, that are gonna be completely not comparable. So we wanna look at the same size cities and in California, obviously, and then the other one is to make sure our budgets are similar in terms of what we have, employees and stuff like that. It all,
Employees maybe per capita, take-home expense too, or per capita income
all
too.
that information is critical when you look at these sort of things.
Yeah. Are we okay with that?
I have a question for you, Tammy. So if we go through the Prop 218 and all this stuff, and we decide whatever the rate's gonna be, if it's more than what it is currently, does it go retroactive back to August to our community? Or does it go forward from the point we sign the contract? How does that work?
I don't think you can retroact those rates, can you, Mark Rand?
You said it was an August.
No.
No,
Yeah, but I understand the current contract's August 15th, but it would be whenever the process was.
complete, yeah.
So if I'm looking at these new rates, we're talking for a 90-gallon garbage can and a 90-gallon recycling can, we're talking less than 30 cents per rate.
I think it's 34 or what's it? 17 cents. So it's 14 cents for a 90-gallon,
And
18 cents on a, is that right? Yeah.
And do the 218 process, we don't have the authority to just say, give them 1.1.
so we're talking.
I thought we did.
We're talking 24 cents, right?
So, yeah, it comes out to like $2.76 when I add the increase for a 90 and the green waste. For residential, it's $2.76 a year for one 90-gallon can and a green waste, or a 60-gallon can and a green waste.
And what about, don't we have a
$2.76 a year.
A year, yeah.
what is the, don't we have a senior account too?
Yeah, the senior is $2 less, but it's the same increase to them.
What is senior, 55 and older?
We do 60 and older, or 65, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How much staff time is gonna be spent to look at all these other cities and what their rates are? How much staff time do you think we're gonna spend on this?
That's a
We're
good.
gonna spend more in staff time than we are what this rate's gonna cost.
Well, that's kinda what I wanna kind of balance out right now.
I mean, checking out what other cities are size, what they're paying, who they're doing their contract with, and what they're paying, that's relatively simple. It'll get a little bit more complex having to go through a city's budget and see just how close they are to us budget-wise, employees-wise, that type of thing. Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, finding out what they pay,
But if the rate increase is $2 and something a year per household, what is per household per year, do you think, on the average?
It's like $3.
Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
You're not talking a lot of money.
$3 a household, I don't think anybody's gonna flip that on the radar.
Well, I don't think they'd turn it down either, right? It seemed like it was supposed to be a lot more than that, $3 or $4. And then what about the
year.
dumpster fees? What about the dumpsters? What happens?
So when I figured out for businesses with dumpsters, well, even your dumpsters are not, I mean, your highest increase is if you have multiple pickups at $2, is the increase per month.
It says here,
So $2 on a 2-yard bin.
4 times the pickup would be $15. about the other services they offer for picking up, debris and stuff? How's that working?
Those are still free, aren't they?
Those are not extra.
You get 2 bulky
What
item
about
per
our street
residence.
sweepers? Does anything have to do with it?
No, the street sweeper is a separate contract.
In the light of the fact that it's not that much money, obviously we'd spend more trying to figure this out, but I thought for sure it was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
For $3 a year, let's give them the 1 point.
Well, yeah, no, I don't.
How do we go about making that?
Well,
at least
I mean,
at least resistance for everybody involved?
well, I mean, Mark and Ann can weigh in on this, but that's why the other alternative of only advertising a public hearing and adopting the rates where you're at least notifying by putting something in the paper about the rate increase was laid on the table because it was not a large increase.
Right. Well, so Tammy, when you said earlier, you know, that there's a difference of opinion about whether Prop 218 applies to this or not,
Mm-hmm.
there's not a difference of opinion among the courts. There's just no cases on it. And there's the statute, there's no law that says that when a private hauler raises its garbage rates, you know, in a city, that process is subject to Prop 218. But if it were litigated, you know, it could turn out that that you do have to follow Prop 218. So apparently there have been a couple or some cities that have been sued, but they settled somehow, so there are no reported cases on it. So what I told Tammy is I think if you just had a regular public hearing, there would be some risk that the city could get sued, but over this small amount, it might not. I wouldn't think it would be a very high risk. But, you know, I know Mark is going to play devil's advocate because he's a litigator. And,
Well,
Wouldn't the remedy be to?
and what I've seen before is, it's not just having to pay back if we lose, if somebody challenges it. It starts as a class action lawsuit against the city on behalf of all the ratepayers. So what seems like, oh, we would just have to pay back, it's not, the worst case is not that we just have to pay back these increases, but we're gonna have to pay back all the attorney's fees from a class action lawsuit. And that's why I feel like the risk is not worth it, especially since they're the ones per the contract that have to pay for the process. So make them pay for the process. But that's our so-called difference of opinion.
well, and now I'm going to disagree with Mark again because I checked with my public finance expert in our firm, and he said that you could not do a class action lawsuit for this type of action. So we can, you know, we'll have to look into that more. But I was told that there can't be a class action.
Ann or Mark, wouldn't the remedy be if somebody was moving towards some sort of a lawsuit to just begin the 218 process?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that would be the easy fix, unless, as Mark has pointed out, somebody waited a few years and then, you know, tried to get refunds for the past few years. You know, there is that possibility, I suppose.
Now, it seems like we need to wait to get a more concrete answer, direction from the city attorney, and whether we can adopt the 1.1 as is.
Oh, well, you can adopt, I'm sorry, without going through the Prop 218 process?
Yeah, just,
Or with,
I know we can do it, but is the recommendation from the city attorney to do that or to follow the 218, given the potential risk? It seems to me the 1.1 could be in the best interest of the community, because they're asking for such a small CPI-related amount, and if we were to do that, if we were to make that determination that that's in the best interest of the ratepayer, is that going to give us any protection? If there are any findings that we need to make, if we do that, that would protect us down the road. Or to the 218.
well, I mean, my initial recommendation, which is always the most conservative, is to follow Prop 218. You know, that way there's no legal risk. But it's up to the council. You have if you want to, you can, take a small risk and not go through the Prop 218 process because there's nothing settled in the law that says it does apply. So it's, I think it's a relatively small risk.
So I'm back down to asking if we say, Jilton, we'd like to have you guys pay for the Prop 218 process for this 1.1% increase for this 1 year. How does that idea sound like the best compromise at this point, from what I'm hearing from everybody?
I don't think we need to do anything. I think because of the rates, it actually pointed out just they're pretty small. Why didn't we go to 218? You go to 218, it could come back with a 5-year contract.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't realize it was this little. I thought it was
yeah.
more.
Well, that'd be our best and final offer, the 1-year thing. If we want to play it, say, from what Mark was saying, to go to 18. If you don't want to go to 18, then you just do the public hearing and it's done. So it's whatever everybody wants to do.
After looking at it from a different perspective, I mean, that is not a major increase.
Do they have a right to request a 218?
Jilton?
They're not gonna want to. They'll lose more by going to 218.
I-
The risk of going up to
I don't know why they would
than
do
they would if
that.
they stuck
No.
with this.
I would assume they have the right to ask for,
I can tell you right now, they're not gonna want to go out and have us force them to go out to bid. That's not what they're
Okay,
doing.
so I feel like everybody is okay with the 1.1%. Is everybody okay with just a public hearing? I mean, public hearing for that then?
I would set it for a public hearing and then seek additional direction from the city attorney.
There you go.
Okay. Is okay? Okay, consensus? That sound like direction, Tammy?
yes.
Okay, very good.
And it would be very helpful if there was a representative from Gilton at the hearing. A lot of our questions could have been answered if the representative was actually at the meeting tonight, and we wouldn't have to guess as to their intentions. Maybe we should suggest they be there at the next hearing or meeting.
Good idea,
Yeah, I did communicate with them about tonight also,
Yeah.
so,
good idea.
okay,
With justification for the increase.
Mhm.
Because we've got a
right.
determination.
Yeah. Okay, anything else
They
under
did
staff
include some in
communications?
their letter too, so, okay.
Anything else under staff communications?
No.
Hmm? Matters presented from the audience. At this time, the public may address the city council on any item not on the agenda, but that is within the authority of the council. The speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker, and the determination of whether an item is within the authority of the council is a discretionary decision made by the mayor. Who would like to say their piece? Oh, by the way, now, I know that we have people in the audience, possibly people on the phone, and possibly people on the go-to meeting. Audience first. Anybody from the audience like to speak their mind? No? How about go-to meeting?
Hi. Hi. Hello.
I'll take the first, there are 2 hellos at the same time. I'll take the first hello.
I'll go second.
Okay.
Okay.
Kurt?
Yeah, this is David Lear.
Oh, David. Hey,
You
David.
guys hear me okay? Hey. So I wasn't sure really altogether the process, but I was hoping to touch on the permit increases on the Lear Village project altogether. Specifically Building A, there was a 38% increase in permits. Initially, it was proposed as an over almost 60% increase. But we landed at 37%. And then, with Parks and Rec being a 68% increase in a single year across the board for everything in their village. So I'm just having a tough time because I get all these increases and we have written contracts that dictate the terms of the permit prices. And then we get into it and they change. I mean, they don't just change a little bit, they change significantly. The scope of work has changed significantly, the permits changed significantly. I don't know how to plan. And so I get accused of being a poor planner, but I don't know how to plan when the rules are always changing. And I'm having a tough time with it. So I pulled the loans on the next 2 anyways. I just don't care anymore. I'm going to pull them anyways. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get this project done. And I'm short on one of these 2 buildings. I paid the city another $35,000 for the next 2 lots. I'm lining up the next ones. I want to get this whole project done by February if I can, or March. I'm going to keep moving this thing. It's just what I'm going to do. So I would just like I'd like the city to honor the written agreements that we have. And I'm having a tough time understanding why staff is allowed to make these changes and then misrepresent the facts to council and say that I'm personally upset about standard inflationary increases. I'm not upset about that. I'm okay with that. But what I'm getting hit with is not standard at all. Like anyway, it's not in any way standard. 22 and a half times the standard annual inflator for Parks and Rec. That's not standard. It's excessive. So I'm just trying to figure out how I afford to build all of these when the rules keep changing them. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, David, and I'm sure the staff will probably be talking to you about that, and maybe the city attorney's legal counsel as well, I would imagine. So, David, appreciate your call very much. Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Thanks, Robert.
No problem, David.
Kurt.
Hello?
Yes, Kurt.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just, I didn't get a chance to speak to the last issue with Jilton. And the first thing I'd like to say is, yeah, it's not a great big increase. Number two, I'd like to say, Mark Velasquez, I really like you. You seem to have it together there, so props to you. What would be very helpful before the next meeting is to do what we've done for other studies, and that's to show what other cities are paying, who the other carriers are out there, and then we can show that Jilton is the way to go. So I would just propose that before the next meeting that you do what you had with the other studies, and then put all the cities line by line there that are comparable, and so we can see that the increase is reasonable, and then maybe you go 218, maybe you don't, but at least you have everything to back you up. Right now you just got Jilton saying what they say. I didn't see anything, maybe there's any documentation that shows how much more money they're paying than they did whatever 4 or 5 years ago, and how much money they've made since we've increased the population and other housing since then. How much more money have they increased, and is that a justified increase? So those are my 2 cents, and that's what I wish I had enough to say. Thank you.
Good idea. Kurt, thank you very much for calling. That's a very good idea. Anybody else who is on either the phone or the go-to meeting would like to speak their mind?
Mr. Mayor, this is, and council members, this is Sean Stroman, Cub Master from Escalon Cub Scout Pack 263.
Hi, Sean.
We can't hear you, Sean, if you're talking.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Hello?
Yeah, Sean, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
But you're a minute into it already.
Council member, city staff, Sean Stroman. What's that?
Sean, you're going in and out.
Sean, I think we might have to come back
Hello?
later. Yeah, you there?
Okay. Okay.
Go
Sure,
for it.
I'll call right back.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to speak under matters presented from the audience, either in the go-to meeting or who have called in? And again, this would not have anything to do with our 2 remaining issues, so. No? What I'd like to do, Sean, are you back?
He's getting on there. Hold on. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Sean,
yes,
go
Sean.
ahead.
Go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good old technology.
Sean, are you there? Hey, Sean, I'm gonna have to keep going, okay? So, yeah, I hate to do that, but I think we're gonna have to keep going on that. No, I don't. It probably has something to do with the Cub Scout chapter. He's the new leader of the chapter, and it sounds like it's a great chapter. It sounds like it's growing, and yeah, very excited to have Cub Scouts back in Escalon. So I think they're going to be active in this community, and yep, should be a very good thing. Should be a very good thing. I hate to do this, but we're going to have to
Mr.
move on.
Mayor and City.
Huh, Sean? Yeah, we're gonna have to move on to administrative matters. Administrative matters, number 5, item 5, discussion of proposed law enforcement support, Blue Line. Tammy.
So, Mayor and Council, at our last meeting, we had some public comment that was made during matters presented from the audience. And, sorry. The city, so I'll give you a little bit of background on this. It was discussion of a proposal to show law enforcement support. The city was contacted by resident Tiffany Russell, who presented the idea of painting a blue line between the double yellow lines on Main Street between 2nd Street and 3rd Street. The proposal was based on the desire to show support for law enforcement for not only the Escalon Police Department, but other law enforcement agencies as well, who call Escalon their home. City staff reached out to Public Works, the engineer, and the chief of police for their thoughts on the matter. Specifically, if there are any laws that would prevent the painting of the stripe on the public roadway, and below were the concerns and feedback from each of the departments. Public Works, there are no streets, road laws that prevent the painting of the blue. The exception would be the painting of a red in between the lines. Engineering, the type of paint that would be used, making sure it is dry before traffic is introduced, how the thermoplastic yellow lines will be taped off to reduce overspray, along with traffic control and liability, the potential of requiring an encroachment permit, which would require a certificate of insurance and submittals for the materials and methods. From the chief of police, after speaking with the department, the officers appreciate the sentiment of the gesture, but do not feel that this specific action would be appropriate at this time. At the meeting of the September 21st, during public comment, there were over 30 emails that were read into the record from supporters of the proposed blue line. Several others also spoke during public comment in favor of the show of support. Since the meeting, there have been some who have reached out to the police department or other staff members voicing concerns with moving forward with the proposed blue line. Supporters have indicated they are willing to compromise and work to come to an agreeable proposal. So as requested at the September 21st meeting, the item was placed on the agenda for discussion.
All right, thank you. And the reason I placed it on the agenda for discussion, because this was a very passionate issue from all sides. And so I thought that it needed to be discussed under a situation where it could be an agendized and we could, in fact, take action on it or something very similar to it if we could. So my first question is, because this started with the community, I'm going to be asking if there's anybody out there from the community to talk about this item tonight. I mean, on the phone or go-to meeting.
Is nobody else going to talk?
I don't think so, Kurt.
Okay. I just want to say that I not only support law enforcement, I was in favor of the half-cent sales tax to provide an extra police officer for our city. And I was kind of discouraged that it wasn't received with a lot of support, and it was voted down pretty badly. So I'm sorry that happened. Number two, with the world the way it's going and the divisiveness that we're seeing, I don't know that that's not going to continue that. Again, I support law enforcement. I know that City Council has declarations for the homeless, battered women and men comes before you, and I think that something like that would represent the city, show our support for the police. I just don't like to make people uncomfortable picking sides. And I think that, you know, as well-intentioned as this is, I think that's what's going to happen. And I think there's better ways to do it. And that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Kurt, appreciate your input. Boy, let's see. Now, Council, are there any thoughts on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Oh.
I think you can't win. You put blue lines, and you got Black Lives coming to town, and everybody else, not only them, there's other groups that want to put their statement out there. I just think if you want to put the statement there and we can show support on your own personal property,
Okay.
I would do it personally. If they want to give me a blue flag, I'll stick it on my lawn, or I'll go buy a blue flag, I don't care.
Mr. Mayor, this is Mark Velasquez. I'm sorry, I might have missed it, but did we get all of the public comments on this item?
I don't know that we have yet.
No, do you think there might be a few more out there? I did give everybody a minute to respond, and I'm going to give them a minute again after, go ahead.
The best procedure is to have all the public comments before the council members start discussing.
Okay. Now, the comments that we had from the last meeting, or that was the last meeting, I'm talking about tonight, seeing what kind of public comments we have tonight regarding this item. So, but what I'll do, I'll ask again if there are any, or if there is any or any other public comments from anybody on the go-to meeting, phone, at this time.
Mr. Mayor, this is Sean Stroman again. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sean, yes.
Sorry about that. I was out in the middle of nowhere. But I would like to state for the record, I completely support this idea. Law enforcement needs all the help, all the support that we can give them, especially in the environment today. I will bring up the item that I was trying to bring up during public comment previously at the next council meeting, but it's similar to this issue in that there was a gentleman that was trying to work with the city to repaint the city address numbers and use an American flag to promote unity throughout our city. And we were trying to do it as a joint project between Cub Scout Pack 263 and this gentleman. And they were told by the city planner that the only thing that would be permitted would be a black background with white letters. And so I reached out to the city planner and asked for a code clarification. Sent that email about 6 days ago. I have not received a response back, but I think it's a way that we can show unity within our city for not only police officers, but for our country. The reality is the country is so broken these days, and if there are ways that we can come together by painting our address numbers with an American flag or putting a blue line, at least maybe not all the streets, but in a few of the city streets, it really shows that Escalon cares. I mean, if you're a taxpayer here in Escalon, you know the city cares, and it shows other outside people traveling to and from the foothills on our city that Escalon really matters. That's all I have to say.
Sean, appreciate it very much. Are there any other callers that would like to comment on this subject?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is Ann Shattuck.
Yeah, Ann.
And I would like to comment. I personally commend the people for that they were energetic and they were committed to what they were presenting. I don't see the value of the painting the line, and I'm wondering why we don't just join in with the National Police Appreciation Day and have flags down the street, the blue flags, the blue line flags. Why not join in and implement something that's already been started in order to thank the police officers instead of doing something like painting the street, which I do not feel has, I think it has short-term meaning.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent idea, Ann. That is a very good idea. I don't know if we have that many flags available in town of the blue line. I think the American Legion.
Pretty much nothing but American flags for downtown.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no, that's a very good idea, Ann. Anybody, any other callers like to discuss this item, please? Okay. Council members, any thoughts on this?
I just don't wanna put us in liability, in a situation where you can get on liability, that's all.
Okay.
I mean, I'm all for the blue flag, all for the police, 100%. But let's not open ourselves up to a lot of controversy. That's all I'm saying. And if it offends anyone, I'm sorry, but you can bet your money, if you put a blue line down the middle of the street, we're gonna have issues.
And that's my concern, you know, being a police officer for 36 years, I appreciate the sentiment behind that. I'm not opposed to putting it down there. I've seen other cities on Facebook that posted pictures of it. It doesn't look bad, and it doesn't present any kind of safety concerns to me. My concern is we're going to put it down at our expense. It's going to get vandalized, and then we're going to have to go back and take care of it repeatedly. You know, it's going to be a target.
Councilor Murphy, you said that you've seen other cities with blue lines?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Where?
They're all over the country. Yeah, it's common. I've seen it posted on Facebook, people showing their double lines and with the blue one in the middle. And it doesn't look bad. It doesn't detract from anything. I just see it as a target for vandalism.
So
That's my concern.
The original resident did share a Facebook post of, I think it was in Ohio? Yeah. It was Ohio, where it had been done, but apparently it had been done unbeknownst to the city, like overnight or something to that effect, so, I don't know, yeah, but that one, they didn't approach the city on that one that we saw, so.
Any other thoughts from the audience regarding this item? This is the blue line down Main Street item. Any other thoughts from the audience? Okay, any other thoughts from council? Okay.
Blue flags in people's yards.
I agree.
Great if everybody in town had blue flag in their yard, that'd say a lot more about who we are and what we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think that private property, let them wave, let them wave.
Nobody can say anything about
Okay.
it.
It might be nice for us to locate a vendor and make that information available to the public so that those that, like me, that fly a flag every day can fly that flag also.
Absolutely.
I was told Amazon. Of course,
Everything.
they've got everything.
Everything's on
Yeah.
Amazon.
No, what would be great is if there was a local vendor, like even a Modesto.
Shirt, and I
Yeah,
wear it, and I don't care if it
yeah,
offends anybody.
yeah.
That's
Right.
on your personal thing.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. My name is Diana, and I'm a citizen of Escalon. I actually, this is my second time listening to the city council. I had to do a college paper on it,
Sure.
and I actually looked at the YouTube upload that you guys had on the last one, and I just got informed about everything that's going on with the blue line. And actually, a lot of people on the emails, they said that that the that they had a Black Lives Matter protest, or did they get a permit for that, or I have that question, like, did that go through you guys, or how did that happen?
Yeah, well, actually, and that's why that was a viable option as well, to do either a vigil or something like that.
Rally.
A rally celebrating law enforcement too, under the same system, where, you get everything filled out, you get, so either you do it on Main Street or wherever, or any park in town. Probably Main Street would be the most likely park.
Yeah, so, but when they had the Black Lives Matter protest, we did reach out to organizers who provided information on what their plan was for that.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is trying to make sure that everybody has their equal First Amendment rights, to be able to write a speech. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, thank you. And then I was also wondering, when the young ladies or the ladies that posted all the balloons and the posters, if it were to have been anything else, would it have gotten down as well? like if it were to be like, like a sign for like a car wash or like uh, other, just other things that will promote like a store or anything, would it have still like needed a permit, or would you have still gone over there and told them to put it down? Would that, I just want to know if it would have been the same procedure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Chief, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, we would have. Anything posted publicly like that on city property is against city ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just kind of wanted to put my opinion in now. I think that what they were doing was a really good thing, but I think that we should also, follow the laws. And I think if I was in that situation and, I did that and they told me to put it down, I would feel bad, but I would have to, also consider, if it were to be, they mentioned a Black Lives Matter a lot. So if somebody were to be putting Black Lives Matter posters, it's a big issue now, and especially during this time. So I think that there would have been a lot of negative comments towards that, just like as there could be towards the police, supporting the police. And that's just honest. That's me being honest, now in this time. I truly support the police officers, especially, since I lived in this town for many years. And when I lived in Modesto for about a year, and it was, it's you can just really tell, this is a small community, and a lot has to do because of the cops, and how, they're always patrolling. They come down my street at least twice a day, and I think that we should support them. But we should also take in consideration, all the laws, and we should try to do something, to where we could let the community know beforehand. We can all show up, and just like just like they said, just like the Black Lives Matter protest, how they informed you guys, there was a lot of people, beforehand, because the main thing that we want to do is support the cops, and it would be best if more people are informed and we get your guys' approval, we get, the community approval, and I think that would be a better solution, and, we'd all be happy, and, we wouldn't have so many angry emails, and all that good stuff. So thank you for hearing me out, you guys, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else would like to speak their mind on this issue? Any other callers? And Chief, do you want anything to add to this?
I would reiterate what Councilman Merkin said I strongly appreciate the sentiment. However, I think an anonymous show of support is unnecessary at this time. The amount of outpouring we got last time kind of reaffirmed to me that this is the greatest community to serve as a law enforcement officer in. I'm already aware, my department's aware. I talked to them before I even addressed this. They recognize the support from city council, from city administration, and a large population or a large portion of the citizens of Escalon. I really appreciate those that stood up, identified themselves, and weren't afraid or inhibited to say that they support cops or law enforcement in general. They kind of warmed my heart, made me feel good about what I do. So like I said, I don't really see an anonymous show of support. It's not going to carry the weight as what those people did that night, and that right there meant the world to me.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it.
Well, I know on behalf of the council, I appreciate it too, and I also appreciate you guys keeping this a safe community for all the other law enforcement officers that live in town but work out of town, and consider this community as a place to get away, raise your family, and decompress from whatever they have to go through every day as well.
Exactly. I agree with Councilman Alves, Mayor Pro Tem Alves. I don't want to invite any problems that another law enforcement officer had to deal with in another community. I don't want to draw any of that here. When they're home, i.e. Escalon home, off duty, don't got to deal with it. That's my problem.
Thank you. Are there any further thoughts on this issue before we go on to the public hearing?
About cookies with blue icing.
That'll work too. Who's making them? Dave?
I'll bring you some tomorrow if they have to.
Okay. Let's move on to item number 6. Public hearing to consider the following. This is the resolution regarding authorizing the city manager to execute an energy service contract with NG Service US for energy-related improvements in accordance with Government Code Sections 4217-10 and 4217-18. Tammy.
So, Mayor and Council, we've had 3 workshops on this matter now, but I will go through a brief background on it. In November of 2019, we did issue a request for proposals for the Infrastructure Modernization and Utility Savings Program. The city received a total of 7 proposals in response to the RFP and shortlisted 4 companies to interview. Interviews were conducted in February of 2020. NG was selected because they scored the highest points based on the criteria in the RFP. And on March 2nd of 2020, the City Council approved an agreement with NG for an investment grade audit. Staff has been working with NG to identify the opportunity for a conservation and renewable energy program that saves operating costs, addresses critical facility needs, and also identifies program funding sources. As a result of these efforts, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution approving an agreement to make $5.7 million worth of improvements, resulting in substantial long-term savings to the city. So in March of 2020, again, the city began working with NG to develop a comprehensive list of potential energy conservation, water conservation, and renewable energy measures, and potential funding sources to enable their implementation. The goal was identified energy saving opportunities as well as fund critical infrastructure needs such as replacements of the heating, ventilation, and cooling systems at the library and police department, new LED ball field lightings at Hogan Park, replacement of all the water meters in the city with new meters capable of being read remotely and without negatively impacting the general fund, water fund, or sewer funds. As a result of its analysis, the team identified the following projects: interior and exterior light improvements at City Hall, Community Center, Corporation Yard, Library, and the Police Department, the LED ball lighting at Hogan Park, HVAC replacements and new control systems at the Library and Police Department, ionizers and the HVAC systems to reduce the spread of COVID and viruses at the following facilities: City Hall, Community Center, Courtyard, Library, Police Department, and Animal Shelter, replacement of approximately 2,500 water meters through the city with AMI, automatic meter reading water meters, a dual port electric vehicle charger at City Hall, and then solar at the following facilities of City Hall, Community Center, Library, Police Department, and the wastewater treatment plant for the domestic side of operations. The project price is the $5.7 million. NG will guarantee the energy savings for the 20 years. During the term of the financing, upon approval of the contract and financing, the project will take approximately 18 months to be completed. So I can continue to go through the staff report, or I could have NG come up and do their presentation, however you guys want me to proceed.
Well, and that's a good question, because I know we've already had 2 workshops on this, and I believe we've already had the presentation, so several times. So I'm going to ask council, what is your pleasure? We can either go through the presentation again or go right to questions.
Just one
Yeah.
more question on this, on your breakdown you gave us. When it comes to, in terms of contingencies, how does that work? If a contingency isn't used in a contract, what happens to it?
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Ashu Jain with NG. So the contingencies are meant for really rate escalation. We put this proposal together, it's been a few months since we've been working on it. So there, and by the time we do the engineering and let out the contract, it's gonna be several months from now if you approve the project. And, generally when we, we commit to, like no change orders and all that. So these contingencies are meant for us, for our, sort of, our cost increases. And it's not that, that if the city decides to change the scope of work, that we'll use this out of contingency. So the contingency is just for your, it's like, as per the, we could, let's say you want a thermostat change from here to there, we're not gonna come and ask you for more money for that, So it's for that. But if you say, you have whatever, $200,000 in contingency, and can you add air conditioning to a building, I don't know, animal control? So that's not what the contingency is for. It's for our, it's for our screw-ups and our cost increases.
So my question again is that if you don't have those screw-ups, what becomes of the contingency? Does it just roll over?
I can tell you historically, we've more than used our contingencies. Now,
They're not contingencies.
I mean, they're contingencies for us. In every project, we have a contingency, And it's very difficult. I mean, I've been asked this question several times, and one of the responses I have, which I was telling Tammy, is, we can keep a running account of the contingencies, but would the council agree to paying us more if we run over?
Oh, no, that's the point of the contract, though. You have a contract.
But, I mean, you want the upside that if you don't use the contingency, we should give it back to you, but what if we use more than what we had planned? And I can assure you that, we end up using these contingencies.
Well, they should rename those. They should call them profits.
No, trust me, it's not.
Mark or Ann, or both of you, I want to make sure we do our due diligence with this presentation. Should I at least let Tammy continue? Mark? Ann?
Well,
No, I would say it is fine if she doesn't have to read the entire staff.
That's fine. Just one.
Short
make-
answer is no, she doesn't.
right, but you do have to have a public hearing
Correct.
on this.
Right. Well, in that case, I'd like to dive into the public hearing right now. Let's open up the public hearing on this item. And the public hearing's begun. Now, again, not just for members in the audience, but also for anybody either at the go-to meeting or on the phone. And let's see anybody from the audience first like to speak on this.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions. One, I don't know what solar costs. I know that in my neighborhood, 7 years ago, next month, we'll have paid off our electric lighting for the Belterra development. We have had workshops, but the workshops have changed as far as scope goes. In November, there was PACE, and then later, I should say, it was NG and PACE. And I had the opportunity to call PACE to see how they were reacting with NG, and they were surprised that the city had gone out there, but they were more than willing, happy to work with NG. My question is, none of this includes the treatment plant. And one of the questions I asked NG was, in their proposal in PC, which would have been all the significant savings for electricity for the aerators and the oxygenators out there, how much money would we be saving by doing that versus where we are right now versus paying for solar out there at this present time? And I didn't get an answer to that. That's number one. Number two, this bid includes, as I've stated before, a 2% increase for the treatment plant. And that's all I really want to talk about, the treatment plant. 2% increase per year from MID, which isn't going to happen. They haven't had an increase since 2012, January. Not looking forward to one anytime soon, as they're being sued for not coming to the 218 proposal for the ratepayers and putting the money from the electric ratepayers into the water use. So I'm just curious where the city is with PACE, and why aren't we dealing with our treatment plant first?
That's a very good question, and you're right. This part that we're talking about tonight is a little separate from the treatment plan. I'm going to have Ashu explain where we're at on that and why they are being treated separately, if you don't mind, and hopefully answer
Yeah,
Kurt's
absolutely.
question.
So this is more like an energy infrastructure project, and then, we did a study session or a workshop session, I want to say a month ago, where we talked about the wastewater treatment plant, and our plan is to, complete the engineering with PACE, and it'll take us maybe 2 more months to do that, and we plan to do a workshop first with the council. I mean, that's around a $21 million project. Well, we're not backing away from that. We're, in fact, signing a $400,000 contract with PACE and other engineers to do that. So that's the next step, and we hope to bring it finally, according to our own time frame, it's around March that we'll bring it back for council's consideration. The solar project that's included is on the domestic side, and it is not on the industrial side, and we expect that not to change. And as far as the electricity consumption for the wastewater treatment plant, there will be a separate solar project that we'll bring to take care of the energy consumption of the new upgraded plant. So that if the council moves forward with that plan, it'll free up a lot of space, and that's what we need for the new solar project. So we're not backing away from that at all. This is just the first phase, and that'll be the second phase.
Kurt, does that answer your questions?
I got to tell you, I'm with Mark. It's very hard to hear. I'm not sure that I understood the answer, so I can't comment on it. But I would think that because the the wastewater treatment project held such promise and potential savings, that I would like to see these two things side by side to see which one's going to actually give us the best bang for the buck. Which project is going to save them much energy, get us away from cease and desist orders, line those receptacles out at the treatment plant, and then we have all of that land to save that we can put solar out there whenever we'd like to. It's just my thought, and I was hoping that we would go forward with a decision from the city council on the wastewater treatment plant before we do this. And I'm not against the solar here, not at all. The city will save money, but we only have so many dollars, and where do you want to put them? And I think that when the city was going forward with the bids for the treatment plant, I thought that was a really good way to go, and I was actually more excited about that than this. And I know you're going to have to do some of these things at the library and at the police department. I'm not against that at all, but I think they need to be put side by side. Thanks for listening.
They're not mutually exclusive projects. They both are needed, and they both serve their purpose. So doing one doesn't exclude the other. So we definitely would like to bring the other one to for your consideration.
Very good. Kurt, thank you very much for your input. Are there any other callers, any other input during this public hearing, please? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to council for action. Thoughts?
I'd move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. Get my glasses here. To approve authorizing the city manager to execute an energy service contract with NG Service US for energy-related improvements in accordance with Government Code Sections 4217.10 and 4217.18. Is there any discussion of the motion on the table?
I think we've beat it up enough. I think we've done everything we can to find out why we should do it, and here we are.
Okay.
I think with NG's guarantees that, savings, they'll take care of us on that.
Mhm.
I don't see any issues with it, so.
And I asked the question at the last workshop about the wastewater treatment plant project and this project, to make sure that we weren't overcommitting in this one and somehow prevent us from doing the wastewater treatment plant when that project came before. I was comfortable with the answer, and I agree they're not mutually exclusive. And it is nice to get some of these projects, to find a funding source to get a number of these projects taken care of, to where it's not gonna impact the ratepayer. So, thank you.
Okay. Any further thoughts?
Good.
Okay. All right, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, please proceed by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please note by saying nay. Motion passes 5-0. Council Communications, Councilmember Bellinger.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank the MG team for coming in. I know we went through the ringer like we said a minute ago, and greatly appreciate all you've done for us. Looking forward to seeing the progress on the project here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time now.
I apologize
You
for
don't-
having you so late
Oh,
on the
no,
agenda.
not at all. If you don't mind, I'd like to say something. And I was debating whether to say it or not, but I would like to say it. And I didn't want to do it before the vote, obviously. I've been working in this industry for over 35 years. I deal with city managers up and down and I'm known as the guy on the 99. I've been doing this on the 99 for 25 years. And I have yet to come across a city manager who's as thorough and as detailed as Tammy. And it is amazing. She made our proposal look much better. I hate to say it, 2 weeks ago, she got a mistake in our meters, the way we had calculated the meters, and we checked it again, and we had made a mistake. There was actually genuine confusion because the meter number had changed. But I have yet to come across somebody who was so thorough in everything that she did, and I just want to compliment that. It was a pleasure for us to work with her and learn from her, and I didn't want to say anything like that before because then there's some vested interest that really isn't. So thank you, Tammy. It was a pleasure working with you, and I hope to
Very
keep
nice.
working with you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Bellinger, anything else?
No, I think that covers it for the night. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Legero.
I just, again, want to thank the community for their continued support of our police department and the officers out there. They're having a rough time in the media. They're having a rough time doing their job. And our department does an exemplary job of protecting this community and doing it in a way that is respected by the community. So I really appreciate that and continue to do a great job. So thank you for that. I also wanted to thank Ann Shaddix for her efforts. I am enjoying the Fun Bunch newsletter, and it's really nice to see somebody taking that project on and really moving it forward. And I look forward to talking with her about different programs out there. Aging in Place is one of them, but I wholeheartedly agree we need to make it possible for folks as they get older to be able to remain in the community that they've lived in most of, if not all of their lives. So I just want to thank her for all of her efforts. And
Very
that's
good.
it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Merkin.
Echo his comments about the police department. There's probably not a day goes by that I don't see some type of post on here that brings a smile to my face. One of our locals going to jail for some nefarious crime. I enjoy that, and the community really does support you guys. It's refreshing to see after watching everything on the news that is so depressing and down. It's nice to hear positive things for a change. Is Justin on the line tonight?
He is not.
He is not.
No.
Can you find out about the Highway 120
Yes.
condition again, if we've got anybody out here to look at the wrinkles that are coming in that road?
Okay.
And then my last item is the Heritage Church is hosting a trunk or treat for the kids. Open to the public, October 28th from 6 to 8 at the Heritage Church out on Escalon Avenue. Used to be the Covenant Church. It's now the Heritage Church. But come out and get your sweet tooth satisfied. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Merkin. Mayor Pro Tem Alves.
I'm glad it's over. You know, I hate to be a big pain in the butt, but those numbers scared the hell out of me. I mean, I worry about this town all the time, and whether or not we're pushing too much, if we're doing too much for them. You know, I can't speak to everybody in this town because I don't know everybody, but I know people in this town are living marginal. I mean, it's not easy for so that's why I'm such a stickler on due diligence and all that. I just want to, it's a great place, and I care for all the people here. We got a great police department, we have great city council, we have great staff, and I just want to keep it all going, that's all. And it just worries the hell out of me sometimes. I go, God, I'm going on our lines here, 5 years ago. But it works out. I looked at the numbers hard enough, long enough, driven everybody as crazy as I could, and so I guess it is what it is at this point. I think we'll be okay. Thanks for your guys' patience.
So, okay. All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Alves, and I'd like to echo that same sentiment. This town, we've enjoyed the Escalon and the kind of town it is, and we all know it's a special place, and and the reason it's a special place and the reason it's the way it is because we've had many people that came before us, many on this dais, many on this in the community, that decisions that were made generations ago, we reap the benefits of. And I feel that actions like this tonight that build us for the long run to be the kind of town that we want to be, to continue to be the kind of town that we all will reap and benefit. I'd like to think in some small part, maybe we've done what we have been able to do to help keep this town a special place for another generation or two. And I think this has been good work. I think it's been very good work. Let's keep this town the way it is. But again, you've got to look at things a little differently, and this is one way. Yeah, those are some scary numbers. But again, building this town for the long run, like other generations have built it for us, I think it's good work. Building this town to be a safe place, thanks to our police department, and a safe place for officers and LEOs from other towns to come back and live here and raise their families in a safe place where they're going to be away from the politics, from the chastisement, from all the stupidity that unfortunately they have to see every day. They don't have to see it here. They can raise their family, take the kids to the park, and I think that's the path we need to keep on in this town, and I know we've been doing it. I know we're going to continue to do it. So I want to thank everybody tonight, and I declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank you, council members.
Oh, I got it.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Okay.
She loves doing